Hello and welcome back to Hoopsa for another match preview. Fresh off the back of facing second place Burnley last weekend, 23rd place QPR now await a visit from league leaders Sunderland this Saturday. So joining me to talk about the Black Cats season so far is Graham from Sunderland fan site Founded 1879, which you can check out via the link in the description below, and I'll be following on from that as usual with a few words on Rangers. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and let's get into it. Hi Graham, how are you doing?
Hello, mate. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, really good.
Good. I'm glad to hear. Well, thank you for joining me for this preview. Obviously, we're here to talk about QPR versus Sunderland on Saturday afternoon. Obviously, Sunderland have started like a house on fire, 9 wins, 1 draw and 2 losses. Currently 5 points clear at the top of the championship. So talk me through it. Why have Sunderland started off so well?
Yeah, I suppose it's a good question because from last season, it tailed off quite dramatically. So I think I did tip us for the playoffs, but I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting us to kind of be top of the league, 5 points clear. I think it's probably down to Regis Lebris, really. I think he's just got the team organised. He's getting clean sheets. We've had, I think, around 7. He's just got us organised, and I think we have the ability to set ourselves up depending upon the opponent we play. We don't have sort of one gear, whereas I think under Tony Mowbray, perhaps we were sort of, it was all on the front foot, and it was great to watch, absolutely. But we did have a bit of a soft underbelly at times, and I feel like Lebris is sort of he's addressed that, and where at times we've just been out and out counter-attacking football, and at times we have seen that sort of mogger ball, if you like, as we did maybe against Oxford at the weekend. But yeah, I think it's mainly down to Lebris and how he's able to just adapt depending on who we play.
Is there a sort of favoured formation for the new manager? I saw you play 4-3-3 against Oxford United.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of. I wouldn't say there's a favoured formation per se. I mean, at times we've kind of gone 4-4-2. We've set up 4-4-2. It's kind of usually operates with Dan Neil in the pivot kind of role. I think I was a little concerned around when Corey Evans was injured and out. We didn't really have an out defensive midfielder, and Dan Neil's kind of been learning on the job a little bit. He's still only 22, but I suppose he is experienced, or certainly more experienced than a lot of our players. I mean, I suppose just as a quick aside, we've still got the youngest squad in the championship. I think it's around 22.7 is the average age of the squad, up from 22.6 last season. So it's not significantly older at all. And our midfield trio is kind of an average age of 19. So, a really young squad, a really young side still. But yeah, Dan Neil's kind of operating in that pivot role. He's not an out and out defensive midfielder. He tends to screen the back four. More of a kind of sweeper. He's been dropping into the back four at times. But yeah, kind of one up front, but it's sort of pressing a high intensity press for some games, and it's just kind of sitting in a mid or low block for others. It's good to see that the head coach has that ability to make the changes where needed, and it doesn't feel like the squad are confused by that. I think obviously there's a lot to be said for keeping the message simple, which he still seemingly is able to do, but whilst getting them to be tactically sort of adept, game on game.
Yeah, makes sense. And of course, you've coped well so far with the loss of Jack Clark in the summer. And despite sort of 10 incomings, 8 of your starting 11 against Oxford United were already at Sunderland last season. So Was this really just a case of finding the right manager for this young group?
It feels a little bit like that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we know, we both know Mick Beale. That 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 was a bit of a disaster. And I think I suppose if I can, and I'm loath to give him any credit whatsoever, but I think there was an attempt to be a little bit more pragmatic from Mick Beale in terms of not always on the front foot, but he just didn't get it right. And I think there was a semblance of a good squad there already. It felt like we needed key gaps in it plugging. We certainly needed strikers capable of scoring goals. The last season, our three main strikers, I think, netted 3 goals in the entirety of the season in total. So that just shows you how much we needed. Then we missed Ross Stewart. We missed Ellis Sims, who was on loan for a brief spell. And in fairness, although Ross Stewart was out from sort of early 2023, really. So we've been without a permanent, if you like, recognised out and out striker for quite some time. I feel like we've started to plug that gap. Wilson Isidore, who we signed in the summer, probably thought of by many to be a bit of just a versatile forward or versatile attacker who could play anywhere across the front three. He's looking sort of, every bit that sort of proven striker that we needed. Some of the goals he's scored recently, sort of Oxford, a volley, which he kind of washed over his shoulder, drop, fantastic finish, and then another goal against Hull, where he pretty much ran 80 yards to sort of chip the keeper. So his confidence is high. But yeah, there was a good semblance of squad, a good sort of a young group that just needed a few little tweaks in key areas, and arguably we've probably done that this summer, or certainly more than we've done in the past.
Mm. And you touched on Mick Beale already. So this time last season, Sunderland were currently sat in the playoffs. 6 games on from that, Mowbray gets the sack. Mick Beale comes in, ends up sort of blowing things up, and it's a bit of a disappointing end to the season. So you said your expectations sort of going into the season, you were hopeful of playoffs. Has that shifted now that you've started quite brightly and you're currently sat at the top?
It's hot, yeah. I mean, I suppose it's difficult not to get carried away as a supporter. You do get really caught up by the way we're playing, the style of play, the results, the performances. It's just a joy to go to the Stadium of Light. And believe me, it hasn't always been like that. So it does feel like you could very easily get carried away. But I've supported the club for decades, so I know how quick things can change. And we were in and around the playoffs when Mick Beale came in. I think we were 6th in the January, and then we finished 16th, 3 points off Sheffield Wednesday. So it can turn quickly. I'm expecting that we will probably have a dip at some point, and we've got 3 players on who are just 1 booking away from a suspension. So I'm expecting a dip. Now, whether that dip is a sustained one, I don't know. I think I still feel like kind of me heart saying I'd like us to get top 2, and then my head's probably saying still think 6th is maybe a good bet.
And which players should QPR be worried about on Saturday? I know 17-year-old Chris Rigg is starting to capture a lot of attention.
Yeah, I think Job Bellingham is probably kind of going under a little bit under the radar because of the performances that Rigg has been able to kind of to put in. He's kind of just bossing games at the minute. He's sort of 6'4", 6'5". He seems like he's really filled out a little bit more in terms of that, just, the strength, physicality side of his game. He can hold the ball up almost like a number 9, but in that kind of 8 role. He screens it really well. And as we saw at the weekend, he's got a goal in him as well. So probably Bellingham, I would say, and Remain Mundell, who was once of Spurs academy. He kind of, I don't know how true this is, but I think the story goes that Spurs were happy to let Jack Clark go because they had Remain Mundell. And obviously they let Mundell go as well eventually. But he wasn't really looking like the real deal last season. I think they looked like there's a player in him, or the few glimpses that we saw, but he's just stepped it up in the summer. And I think this season it feels like he's literally just kind of picked up where Jack Clark left off. There's a similarity to them. I think Mundell offers a little bit more defensively. Jack Clark would kind of just, wait till the ball was played into him and you knew what he was going to do. But as a defender, it was really difficult to stop him. Mundell has that same kind of ability to cut in on his right, but offers a little bit more, defensively, as I say. So probably Isidore, yeah, he's on form. But I think probably those are the main ones that I've really enjoyed watching.
Now, QPR gave Sunderland 2 lovely away days in 2023 with a 3-0 away win in February and a 3-1 away win last September. So to round us off in this video, what's your score prediction for Saturday?
It's not as straightforward question as it might seem. I think Sunderland, can blow teams like Burnley away and Luton. Well, we certainly would beat them. I'm not sure we blew them away, but yeah, we certainly picked the 3 points. And the team that we've slipped up against, for example, was Plymouth. So I know you guys are not having the best of seasons. So I still think we probably will have enough. So I'm going to go 2-1 to Sunderland.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining me for this video, Graham, and all the best for the rest of the season.
Same to you guys. Same to you. Cheers.
Huge thanks once again to Graham for joining me for this match preview, and do make sure to check out Founded 1879 via the link in the description below. It's interesting that Sunderland have such a young team and are doing so well so far, because based on the average age of QPR's summer recruits, 21 years old across 9 signings, that's clearly where QPR want to be themselves in the next few years. Martí Cifuentes has over the past 2 matches managed to stop the rot, at least temporarily, slowing down that 4-match losing streak with a point at home to Coventry and a draw away at Burnley. The 2 performances couldn't have been more different though, because at home to the Sky Blues we looked like conceding every time they attacked, even if they did take their foots off the gas after that early lead. Whereas against the Clarets, our defence was resolute and much more akin to the rock-solid displays that we were used to in the second half of last season. Our improved defending in the last game is a big positive to take into a very tricky tie this weekend, but it's our poor home form that desperately needs addressing, because once again we're picking up a terrible habit of not being able to win at Loftus Road. 6 of QPR's 9 points this season have come away from home from 6 matches, while in W12 we picked up just 3 from a possible 18 points. Generally speaking, the outcomes of Marty's 23 home matches so far as QPR's head coach have been evenly split, with 8 wins, 8 draws and 7 losses, but this season it's been 3 draws and 3 losses so far. And because of this, I'm very intrigued to see what the game plan is for this one. Our fans will be more than accepting of the fact that we played with our backs against the wall at Burnley and came away with a draw as a result, but a home crowd won't accept that against Sunderland. It's also a method that won't work given that Sunderland have scored the most goals in the division and will be much more likely to find a breakthrough than Scott Parker was. It's also just not how Cifuentes is as a manager. The general consensus is that we needed to tighten up the back line and go back to basics, but he won't want to completely sacrifice any attacking edge at home, which we did away at Burnley. I imagine he'll stick with the same backline as the last game. You don't change one that has just picked up the first clean sheet of the season, though I do worry about us at fullback given the strength of Sunderland's wingers. Every team at home this season has pushed us as wide as possible, which is exactly where their strengths lie as a team. In midfield, I think Cifuentes has been more confident in the pairing of Field and Varane over the past 2 games, but whether they can handle a midfield three of Bellingham, Neil and Rick is a different question. In front of our central midfielders, I'm fairly sure Saito and Cher will be 2 of the 3, but whether Cifuentes opts for Smith or Dembele, I'm not so sure. Dembele was of course absent against Burnley. We don't know how serious that knock is, and we did pick up our first clean sheet of the season without him in the side, and instead with a winger that does provide Dunn with more support at right back. Up top, we have no choice but to play Seller unless Marty wants to be really ballsy and chuck in Lloyd for a start from the off. I can't see it personally, but Cifuentes did not look happy with the Slovenian at full time last weekend. So, score prediction. I think this one is quite tricky to guess, to be honest. We've obviously upped our game against the relegated sides this season, but the other teams that were already in the league and are currently at the top, we've not fared so well against. I do think Sunderland are going to have a lot more about them than Burnley, and I do think they're going to beat us. I think we will be in the game. It'll probably be a bit tighter than expected, but I reckon it's going to be a 2-1 win to Sunderland. Do let me know your own score predictions in the comments below and what you think heading into this match. And if you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I'll hopefully see you in my match reaction video. Come on, you Rs.